Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of the trailer for The Last of Us Season 2. We are shifting into part 2 of the game with Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey back as Joel and Ellie, Caitlin Dever joining the cast as Abby, Isabella Merced as Dina, Young Mazzino as Jesse, and Jeffrey Wright reprising his role from the game as WLF leader Isaac. Hearts will be broken, fungus will spread, clickers will click. I loved Season 1, I loved breaking it down, and this trailer is actually one of the best crafted, emotion-focused trailers I've ever seen. So I'm gonna break down the artistry of the trailer, but also how the events from part 2 of the game will unfold in this second season. But here's the deal. Since a lot of you watched The Last of Us without knowing what happens in the game, the first half of this video will just be a spoiler-free breakdown of what we see in this trailer, the characters, the themes, the cool aesthetic choices of the trailer, and then the second part of this video will go into what we're calling our Spores of Spoilers, and include spoilers for everything that happens in part 2 of the game as we try to figure out what happens when. Cool? Sound good? Let's get started.
Oh, you want to start or what?
Okay, Catherine O'Hara, she of Schitt's Creek, Home Alone, Beetlejuice, and several Christopher Guest films, joins this cast this season as an original character, Joel's therapist in Jackson. She sets the egg timer to 45 minutes, and the egg timer cleverly forms the structure of this trailer. A teaser that was released last month includes more of her dialogue.
Did you hurt her? Then what? What did you do?
I saved her.
It sounds like Craig Mazin is approaching Joel in a similar way that The Sopranos approached Tony Soprano, by exploring this morally complicated character through therapy, like Lorraine Bracco's Dr. Melfi. I mean, I just gotta say, sometimes great TV can really just come from two great actors in a quiet room. O'Hara's character is gonna try to help him work through his choice at the end of season 1 to save Ellie from a surgery that would have killed her and might have produced a cure for the Cordyceps infection. I fantasize about having my own personal chef. Somebody who can do all the hard work of menu planning and meal prep. Someday I'll get there, but in the meantime, I've got Cook Unity. Cook Unity is basically a pipeline from your home to dozens of talented chefs that cook delicious incentive meals fresh every day in regional micro kitchens, not warehouse production facilities. Their roster of all-star chefs include Food Network alums, James Beard Award winners, and acclaimed restaurateurs. Cook Unity is the first chef-to-consumer platform that delivers freshly prepared, pre-selected meals right to your door weekly. The subscription is super flexible. You can pause, skip weeks, or cancel at any time. It's super easy to do. You can pick from over 350 meals each week based on your dietary needs or what kind of cuisine you like. Monday night you could have Ruben Garcia's crispy tilapia. Tuesday's dinner could be Esther Choi's teriyaki roasted salmon, and Wednesday could have Stacey Barang's grilled Asian hanger steak. I, for lunch today, have decided to eat crispy pork cutlet and vegetable fried rice from Nora Nolasco. Go to cookunity.com/nrockstars50 or click the link in the description and use my code NRockstars50 to get 50% off your first order of Cook Unity meals to try them out for yourself. The trailer is scored to a version of Pearl Jam's Future Days, which opens with these lyrics: "If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself." Now, this next part is not really a spoiler because it's just going to be different in the show, but in part 2 of the game, this is actually the song that you have to strum on the guitar as Joel when you teach Ellie how to play the guitar, and you have to actually play the notes. It's kind of tedious, but it's pretty cool. But the thing is, this song came out in 2013, the same year as Outbreak Day in the game, and Neil Druckmann justified this by saying that Joel probably just heard the song on a YouTube video before the album came out. But the HBO series pushed up Outbreak Day to 2003, so using the song in the show would be a way bigger anachronism. But I think it's okay because we're just seeing it as the trailer song. But it now leaves me wondering what song Joel will use in the show for the scene. It would have to be something before 2003. In the scene of this trailer where it looks like this might be happening, we see this Nirvana poster and Nirvana's In Utero album behind Joel. Could it be a Nirvana song like Heart-Shaped Box, Come As You Are, Smells Like Teen Spirit? I just gotta say, please don't do Radiohead's Creep. They've been overdoing it and everything lately. Hey, I wouldn't mind an acoustic cover of Linda Ronstadt's A Long, Long Time. But the Pearl Jam song's lyrics speak to the kind of unconditional love that Joel learned from Bill and Frank. And Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann wanted to explore the dark side of the coin of unconditional love, how that can force you to do illogical, violent things out of fear of losing someone. But in a post-apocalyptic world, is that reason enough to do anything? We see Ellie and Jackson passing Circle Creek Square and a sign on the right for Gray Hills, Indian Arts and Jewelry. Part 2 of the game opens about 4 years after the events of the first part, but it ends up jumping around quite a bit in the chronology. We see someone along a snowy mountain crest. This season shot mostly in Canada and British Columbia and Alberta, and here it looks like Exshaw in Alberta. Alberta. Next, Ellie and Dina riding on horseback through a blizzard. This looks like some tutorial scenes with Dina and Ellie when they do routine clearing around Jackson. There was one moment in season 1, episode 6 of The Last of Us when Ellie sees this girl that we all thought was gonna be Dina.
What?
What's wrong with you?
What about her manners?
She was just curious. Kids around here don't usually look or talk like you.
Well, maybe I'll teach them.
I think Mason and Druckmann even hinted at that being Dina in a podcast that they released, but this is a different kid. Dina is now played in this season by Isabella Merced. Okay, next, a different scene with Ellie playing a guitar for Dina. More on this in the Spores of Spoilers. Now, over these images, you'll hear Catherine O'Hara's voice telling Joel to say the thing you're afraid to say, and say it out loud, no matter what it is, no matter how bad, because he has to say it out loud before he can begin to heal from it. Like, Joel is such a quiet, brooding character. He has to, actually say out loud what he did and own up to it. Next, we see Jesse and Tommy working in Jackson. Jesse is another member of the community who has been in a relationship with Dina in the past, on and off again. Okay, one shot shows Ellie in a subway station as behind her creeps a stalker. So stalkers are the stage 2 of the Cordyceps infection. Stage 1, runners. That's when you've been infected under 2 weeks. Lesioned skin, fungal tendrils coming out of your mouth. Stage 2 are stalkers. That's between 2 weeks and a year. Partial head fungal growth, 1 eye remaining. Stage 3 are clickers, where it's been over a year. Complete fungal growth on the head and vision loss, forcing the infected to use clicks for echolocation. The next stage, bloater, that's several years, thick like armor growth all over the body, very difficult to kill. We saw one of those in the neighborhood in season 1. Now there are other stages beyond those that I'll save for later. Okay, in this shot we meet Abby, played by Caitlin Dever. You've seen her in Dope Sick, Booksmart, Justified, Last Man Standing. She is an incredible actress. Abby's gonna be very, very important to the future of the show. And while Dever doesn't have the bulk that Abby has in the game, I actually like that Caitlin Dever and Bella Ramsey look somewhat similar for reasons I'll get to later. Okay, next we see a whole ass horde of Cordyceps infected through binoculars running through the blizzard outside Jackson, and this is chilling. Even through this freezing snow, these fungal infected beings come. On the right, one stumbles and gets back up. HBO is obviously thinking, hey, we gotta do another Game of Thrones hard home, right? Even the shape of the binoculars in this point of view shot reminds me of the game when you join Dina to look at the town from the radio tower. Okay, in this shot, Abby crawls under a fence as the horde bends it over her, and the weight is just getting closer and closer to crushing you. This is an iconic scene from the game, terrifying to go through. They restaged it shot for shot, including a stalker tackling Abby at the end of it and a gun coming in. This gun belongs to Joel, and the way that the shot rings in Abby's ears here in the trailer is just like the ringing in her ears from this part of the game. Okay, next, this character is called a Seraphite, or a Scar, as they're referred to by members of the rival WLF, the Washington Liberation Front militia. The Seraphites are a religious cult who believes that Cordyceps was brought upon humanity to punish it for our sins, and they live off the land, and they tend to reject pre-outbreak technology, except for their soldiers who are armed. The graffiti here, feel her love, and these symbols are a reference to the past leader of the Seraphites, a woman known only as the Prophet. You never meet the Prophet in the game, because by the time you meet the Seraphites, the Prophet has long been dead. Here in this shot, we see a Seraphite being tortured by Isaac, the leader of the Washington Liberation Front militia in the Seattle area, played by Jeffrey Wright in the game, and Jeffrey Wright returns here to play himself in live action for the series. This torture scene is actually the first time we see Isaac in the game after several ominous mentions of the character. So as this trailer progresses, we hear the ticking of Catherine O'Hara's character's egg timer as the trailer crescendos into a cacophonous roar. We see a montage showing the horde slamming against the walls of Jackson, people on fire, probably from Molotovs, Tommy and Maria, WLF soldiers pushing through a door, and then Ellie and Dina in a subway being mobbed by infected. And in this shot, Ellie is screaming and crying, seeing something. And then a tear drops from Joel's eye, and the egg timer just runs out, and we cut to black, reminding us of another famous Sopranos moment where we just cut to black, wondering what that means. I just love this internal timer structure of the trailer because it's like our heart is being brought to a natural boiling point. And then over some guitar strums, we look for the light through the letters of the Last of Us title, as a few spores are illuminated. But unfortunately, unlike the game, airborne spores don't really factor into the show. Instead, the show got around it by having this effect where they step on a patch of spores, and that alerts other infected runners and stalkers nearby. So we end the trailer now with Ellie playing the guitar for Joel as Pearl Jam's Days of You and Me plays. This scene is at night in the game, but they seem to set it at daytime here, which reminds me of the screen of the neck of the guitar leaning against the open window in the morning light, in a very key moment in the game. There are going to be 7 episodes of this season, coming to max at some point in 2025. We don't know what month. I'm looking forward to breaking down each episode. And now at this point in the video, I'm going to pivot to go back through this trailer through the lens of our Spores of Spoilers to try to figure out what game events will happen when, the stuff I talked talk about from here on out will spoil major parts of part 2 of the game. Seriously, if you don't know what happens in part 2 and you don't want to be spoiled, just stop watching this video now. Bye. Thanks for joining me. Okay, the question going into the season is, which episode will be the Red Wedding event? Joel's death. Will Joel die in the first episode to align with the structure really of the game? Will Joel die like halfway through these 7 episodes so that we spend a bit more time with him and Ellie and Jackson? Will they rearrange some of the time jumping chronology and flashbacks of the game to occur just chronologically in order to delay Pedro Pascal exiting the show? I mean, you know, someone at Max and Warner and HBO are like, can we keep The Mandalorian, Mr. Fantastic, for just like 3 more episodes? I don't think they're gonna do that. Craig Mazin has huge respect for the way Neil Druckmann structured the story for part 2, including the way we jump around in time, because they reorder the chronology so that we're withheld information about characters and we hate them initially and then explore their backstory and then have to kind of awkwardly start to feel empathy for them later on. And the dramatic irony and empathy shifts are really what the story is all about. Like, we need to have just a bit of time with Abby and not know her full backstory before she kills Joel so that we hate her, and then later we shift to Abby's point of view and then be thrust into her backstory to feel that awkward empathy shift for someone that we hate. So let's look again at some of these shots that I didn't want to talk about before. So Joel's therapy session with Catherine O'Hara's therapist character feels like it might actually be mirroring Joel's confession to Tommy about him killing the surgeon and potentially dooming humanity, a conversation with Tommy that happens at the beginning of part 2 of the game. The shot of Ellie and Jackson could actually be the morning after she punches Seth for calling her a loudmouthed homophobic slur. This shot on the ridge could be when Abby splits off from Owen to scout Jackson when she's looking for Joel early on in the game. This shot is when Ellie and Dina are in Seattle and Ellie's now playing an acoustic cover of Aha's Take On Me for Dina. Take On Me was obviously featured in season 1 of the TV series. Okay, so this shot of Joel on his porch comes from the game moment when he's playing Helplessly Hoping by Crosby, Stills and Nash. It's a period when he and Ellie are not talking after Ellie actually did find out what Joel did to the Fireflies and what that meant. This actually comes in the form of a flashback during the epilogue of the game when Ellie comes home from Santa Barbara and plays Future Days and then thinks back to Joel in that particular moment. This shot of Ellie cleaning her switchblade could be after she kills Jordan, the first person she kills from Abby's WLF group. So Abby here is at her father's grave. Abby's father, Jerry Anderson, was the Firefly surgeon in Salt Lake City whom Joel killed, which begins Abby's revenge quest against Joel. In our season 1 breakdowns, we actually wondered if one of the nurses in the scene could have ended up being Abby. I don't think so, but I do think casting Caitlin Devers, who looks a bit like a slightly older Bella Ramsey, is intentional to make these two women kind of doppelgangers of each other and moral foils. Like, you could definitely imagine another universe where Caitlin Devers plays Ellie, but just someone a bit further along in her life. Like, I think when we shift the point of view of following Abby as she's now trying to kill Ellie, it's gonna feel like a character who's killing herself, her mirror image. And I think we're gonna follow Caitlin Devers as Abby in season 3 of the show, and I think they wanted someone who feels like it's just like an Ellie who's had different things happen to her. Okay, coming back to this moment where Joel saves Abby after the Hoard defense moment is gonna feel pretty intense because audiences who don't know the game events won't know that Abby is going to kill Joel after this, but they will know that she wants to. Okay, this shot I think is Ellie and Dina rushing back to find Joel and Tommy captured by Abby's crew. Now, we don't see this gallop in the game, but we do get just kind of a cut to where Ellie's now sneaking up on the cabin. This shot I think is when Joel and Tommy and Abby are riding away from the Hoard toward the cabin where Joel will be killed. Okay, the WLF here might also be during the subway scene in Seattle because these shots show both soldiers and infected in the shot. But Ellie has an SMG in this shot and it might be in a TV station. I'm not really sure where in the game she would have one of these weapons. And then Ellie and Dina escaping the subway is seen at this part in the game after Ellie had told Dina that she was immune and Dina brushed it off. And here Ellie gets bitten and that convinces Dina she's not lying. And then of course the shot of Bella screaming is probably when she watches Joel get beaten to death by Abby. The following shot might be Joel accepting his fate the moment he tells Abby, why don't you just say whatever speech you got rehearsed and get this over with. And I mentioned the ringing we hear after the gunshot in the trailer. This is the same sound effect in the game that Ellie hears after Abby delivers Joel's killing blow, and it blocks her from hearing what they're saying in that cabin. And it is also the same ringing that Ellie hears after she kills Owen and Mel and realizes Elle was pregnant. So this is really just like the sound of Ellie's worst case scenario. So based on all this, I think we're gonna get Jackson and the Hoard in episode 1, maybe over episode 1 and episode 2, and that's when Joel dies. Episode 3, Ellie and Dina go to Seattle, and then at this point we'll meet the WLF, the Seraphites. Maybe around episode 5, we'll get to the aquarium where Ellie kills Owen and Mel, and actually that might happen in the final episodes of the season, and then at that point we'll shift to Abby's point of view at the end of the season as we learn who exactly her dad was. I think all of season 3 is gonna be an Abby season, and I think it'll be in season 3 where we get to the Rat King in the hospital as we see her entire journey, because Craig Mazin has said season 4 will be where we get to Santa Barbara. There's gonna be a lot of stuff he has to like write for all this and just really take his time with it, but I think it'll be for the best. The question will be, will viewers stick with the show after Pedro Pascal leaves? Like looking back on The Walking Dead, a lot of people left that show after Glenn gets killed, but that's why I think they're gonna have to kill him off like in episode 1 of this new season just to rip that band-aid off. Hey, a huge thanks to John Costa and Berg for their research help on this video. Comment down below with your thoughts on this upcoming season. Follow me at EA Voss. Subscribe to all 3 channels of the New Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.